Guys, welcome back to the show. Today we have a great guest on here. He's a high-level real estate entrepreneur out of New Orleans, right? That's a classic market. I was just down there a few weeks ago. The houses down there are amazing. You got to go down there if you've never seen them before. Now, we're going to be talking about his story here today. He's a cash flow investor, but he's also done some impressive, large-scale rehabs down there. Let me introduce you to my guest today, Marcus Tuttle. How you doing?
Hey, Connor. It's my first podcast. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, man, but we got to get you on here. Some of you superstar investors kind of hide behind in the shadows, and it's time to pull you out and get you some recognition. So let's go ahead and talk about you a little bit here. So go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit further. Let's dig on into how you kind of got into the business.
Sure. My name is Marcus Tuttle. I'm from Fort Smith, Arkansas. I got into real estate in 1997 after I moved to Louisiana after not having much else going for myself. And I was going to college here, working in the surveying field, and I got a copy of Carlton Sheets' late night program, Mr. No Money Down. From there, I put the cassette tapes in my 87 Honda and was off to college courses. And I used the contracts in this package to go to the realtor in my area, a little duplex. He's a passive income guy. And so I brought the realtor my little Carlton Sheets contract, junior real estate investor contract, and she batted it away and told me to go get an FHA loan, which I did. And when I was 22, I bought my first property. After that, the broker thought I needed to be in real estate, and he actively recruited me and promised me untold riches in the real estate field. And so I became a realtor in about 1997 or 1998. And to that guy's credit, he would sit me down in the evenings with a beer and give me the Haynes directory and tell me to get going cold calling, which I got some listings and had some success. I just didn't know anything. Right. But that skill has, I've went back to that skill many times, is just having the ability to drink daily. No, not really. To have the ability to call people that you don't know.
Right.
And that has been a wealth of opportunity for me.
Yeah, so the Carlton Sheets program, guys, if you're a little bit younger, it was the first introduction to real estate for a lot of people, including myself. I went off to school as a freshman in college, and I ordered the Carlton Sheets program on my parents' credit card, and they found out I did it, and they basically freaked out and said, if you don't return this right away, it's going to happen, right? So I never went through the program, unfortunately, because who knows where I'd be if I got into real estate at 19, but so you went on to build a rental portfolio. Let's talk about that, because you understand cash flow. Cash flow is very important for individuals. If they don't know how to work for passive income, they're going to be spinning their wheels for the rest of their life, right? So you started buying rentals down there.
Yep, with that first rental. I really shouldn't have went to the real estate field because I really wanted to be a real estate investor. Just early 20s, you weren't really clear on who you're going to be with your business identity and perhaps your personal identity. But I heard it later. I think that internally, I really didn't want to trade time for money because it's just a limited quantity that you can. It's only so many hours a day you can trade. Plus, I didn't have the skill set to command large dollars or large salaries. So that seemed something that was scalable. So passive income was where it started. I forayed into real estate sales, and you certainly make an income. However, it ends, as everybody knows. So you can, and the overarching concept, I think, is leveraging the ability to scale rental property, and you can certainly scale renovations as well. So that's something that you're not directly trading. You can really multiply your time involved in it. But rental property has been great for us, but it wasn't all at once. I've been in the business for over 20 years, and it's just something that you can keep adding to as your skills grow. I know the methods that I've used to get that first one certainly weren't the ones that I've gotten the subsequent ones. So you just start a journeyman's, a journey into learning, adding to your skill set.
Right, because the market's changed, you got to change with them. So what are you doing now as far as focusing on getting deals?
I think 2012 was the last time we bet the farm. Just took a crazy big renovation, and we weren't sure how much it was going to be worth, what the rental projections were going to be. But you just take a risk. You try to, before kids, we would just try to take down the biggest thing we could, the biggest thing that somebody would let us be involved in.
Right. So you have done some big rehabs down there. Those houses down there, what would you call those types of builds? Are they, they're unique, they're old colonial builds, or like, what would you call those?
During the Art Deco period, there's an older stock from 1800s in a different area. In my area, they started building about 100 years ago.
Right.
New Orleans used to be one of the largest cities in the nation. Since then, it is not, but they had a housing need. So you have some large multifamily structures that were luxurious. It was in our area. There's no status, there's no diminution in your status if you live in a multifamily property.
So, guys, if you've never been down to New Orleans, those houses are old. They're huge. They got the original lumber in them. So, like, what type of headaches would someone in your market or in some of these markets around the country, because it's not just the only market where houses are like that, what type of headaches should they look out for to run into? Did you have a lot of issues with the city doing these types of rehabs? Because you probably put well over $100,000 in rehabs into rehab some of these houses,
Multiple
right?
hundreds of thousands.
Multiple hundreds of thousands, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's just factors that you can't compute. I've blown every budget and every timeline I've ever been a part of. So I'm not the guy to talk about how to keep a tight budget or keep a tight timeline. I really endeavored to do better, but there's just these factors that you can't talk about. And there's plaster, and once you tear away the plaster, your foundation's bad, so you have to redo the foundation. And renovations, you have to do it twice. Anybody that's done a renovation knows you got to take it off before you can put it on again. So there's a duplication in some labor.
So do they make you, like, how much does the city down there in New Orleans mess with y'all as far as like the historic district? Do y'all have to go through a long process with them and permits, and are they pretty lenient?
Nope, they are not lenient. But in the areas that I renovated in, thankfully I got there in a couple of cases. I got there before they started ratcheting down on the controls of it, but they want to maintain the exterior look for it, and you have to appear before some governmental boards and some quasi-governmental boards that are preservationists. So that's what you have to deal with. You might have to keep a facade. I've seen just the facade of a house just propped up with 2x4s because they're going to build an entire house behind that facade.
Well, I mean, it's important. Let's touch on this here a little bit, because I think it's important for new investors to understand that it's not just like the wild, wild west out there. You can't just go buy a house in any area. If you get into some of these older areas, these historic districts, for example, I was just up in Richmond, Virginia last week, and down there in the Churchill area and some of these areas, you can't just go and just like start renovating the house however you want. Sometimes there's rules on the windows that you can use, the paint colors, what they have it called Richmond trim up there. All y'all listening from Richmond. They make them use the same wood up there. That's the trim wood. It increases the value quite a bit. So there's certain things that you have to understand, you have to follow when you're working with a city, especially in historic districts, right?
Yep. I really, that was part of the appeal of New Orleans. I fell in love with the architecture, the trim, the windows are made of virgin growth cypress. So, I mean, it's a whole thing people are crazy about. Floors are oftentimes made from virgin growth pine, and it's just an eclectic feel to New Orleans houses and Richmond houses and the older cities of the country.
Right. So your market's a little bit higher price point. Where are your rentals? Do you own them in New Orleans, or you own them around the country, or how are you getting those houses in New Orleans if you do have them to cash flow?
I had a friend once that said he bought at a very auspicious time, and I bought after him, but it was still not a bad time because after our Katrina 12 years ago, the desire for this country for people that want second homes, young people that start their career, they may not be able to command the type of dollars that they would in Boston or Dallas or Atlanta, but they can get a foothold in this area because there's just an opportunity to start your career here, and it takes some of them because they like the social aspect, the atmosphere on the social scene, as well as Tulane graduates sometimes get a foothold in their new lives here and they stick around. But yeah, it's really we're talking about $250 and $300 a square foot on a single, and sometimes more. So a lot of new constructions, and even these multifamilies are commanding over $200 a square foot.
Wow! So
it's substantial.
So we saw the headache that they're dealing with down in Houston. We all know a lot of people down there together that invest in that market. Excuse me, guys. So what does it look like when one of those hurricanes comes through New Orleans? Does this, on a micro level, destroy the market? Do prices drop instantly? Like, how does that affect the market, and how long have you seen it take to recover?
Yeah, it's really profound. There's flood. Inundation is really the thing that runs a community because the infrastructure, the roads, the electric, the gas lines, the water lines, it all gets flooded. But a wind event like Miami, I know they get some flooding, but wind goes and leaves, and a storm surge in Florida typically just goes and leaves. But Houston, New Orleans, they had multi-day, a week inundation, which really kills a city. You have to get the people out, and you're really unsure about what's going to happen. At least we were, because of on such a scale. I think Houston was on a scale like that, but there wasn't quite the loss of life. It does destroy the city, and there's a extensive period to put the utilities back on. Then the economy. Well, there's the emergency economy that deals with the providers, and then we just had to wait around and see if the city was going to return. So it was uncertain times.
Now, like, how much did y'all have a lot of issues with mold and the houses kind of rotting on you down there? Like, how could you even?
Well, it was submerged for a period of time, days or weeks, and then it left. So yeah, there's certainly mold if you didn't open up the wall. So
right.
If the water doesn't leave, the moisture doesn't leave, then you're left with mold issues.
Yeah, so they weren't just tearing those houses down, because once it kind of gets deep inside the studs, it's pretty hard to remediate all that.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, so I mean, I remember going down there, I guess it was like 3 or 4 years ago, and you could see the flood lines on all the sides of the houses. It was pretty high up there. I mean, you're looking at like 10, 12 foot on some of these houses. Yeah,
there was a period that received a storm surge, and yeah, that was scary. It was just a big wall of water.
Okay.
It flooded different ways. There was the pump failure, and then there was a storm surge. So it came at it from different ways. But yeah, many people were scared for their lives. Unfortunately, we were not scared for our lives. We evacuated.
Right. So let's talk about the mindset and the psychology behind an investor who goes into taking on a big project, because some of the houses I've seen you do and the photos I saw just recently down there, those are some big projects, right? We're talking about complete gut jobs, multi-level properties, older properties, and not a lot of investors are going to take these on because the risk, right? So going into these, the mentality, what type of spreads are you looking on? What types of reserve do you want to make sure? Because, I just talked to a buddy of ours, Rich Lennon, up there in Richmond, and he almost had to spend double on a big rehab, similar to like the ones you're doing, because it's so hard to accurately predict the costs on, because there's so many unknowns once you get in. So what type of numbers do you need? Because it's clearly not like you're just doing a cookie cutter 150K house where you know what you're going to get, the costs are. Those are big projects.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I'm not the guy to talk about the exact numbers, because I think that I've crushed the numbers. I've absolutely crushed them, because I've gotten in here and done a lot of the things myself, or directly supervised a person that did have multiple skills. Certainly, you can get plumbers sometimes do electric. They offer those both services, and sometimes an electrician can also do HVAC. But you mainly want your general guy. You want to be able to find your general guy who's going to agree to work with you 6, 8, 12 months, and he'll be able to not charge what a contractor would for the whole project.
Right.
As well, I think that you develop a little factory inside of your project. You got a molding crew that transitions into a floor crew that can also put hardy backer on and surrounds. So you don't have to. I think you can start bundling these services and getting a value for it. So the opportunity cost lost by me could be a number that would scare me, but I chose to be directly involved. And of course, I had a tool belt. I was a concrete guy. I was a carpenter. I was a tile guy, and I just made that investment in that project for the end goal to have passive income. And I think that's not back to our original premise.
Right. So how are you financing these properties? Are y'all do anything creative with owner financing? You're just doing a simple buy, fix, and finance out? Like, how would you go about buying one of those older properties? Do the banks even lend on them?
Well, they do, but not to people like me. So at least when I got started. So right. I will say that owner financing really changed our life, because you're owner financing and leveraging. I'm not afraid of going in debt as much as I can, if it has certain limitations. But just really at a certain stage in your life, you're able to bet the farm and just try to get someone to finance you the biggest thing you can imagine, because you got time to do the renovation and start receiving income and play it over your whole life. Meanwhile, you're providing an exit strategy for example, a first project, the guy it was a family property and he hadn't made any capital repairs, and he was looking for an exit plan. He was older and didn't care for the maintenance and the managing of the real estate. So he was ready to dump it. So if you can believe it or not, he financed us $265,000, $25,000 down, which was 10 up front, 15 in 3 months. And he was going to finance us, what is that math? $240,000 over 7 years, fully amortized. So it was a big payment. And I had talked him down from 5 years. So I think he was taking a bet that he might take it back, but we were able to perform. So there wouldn't have been a bank that would have lent us that type of money. So that's why leveraging an owner at a highly leveraged position in this property was significant to us.
Well, I mean, it's important for them to understand, Marcus, if they don't ever make that offer, they're never going to get accepted. So people always talk about, well, I can't buy houses because I don't have money, but they're not out there making these offers, right? So are you just buying them with owner financing from the seller, or are you turn around selling them on the back end, wrapping them, or are you just, how is your main focus with owner financing, on the front end or the back end or both?
Well, I haven't sold anything with owner financing. So something that I'd like to aspire to is getting more sophisticated on owner financing as a seller. However, it's all on a buyer. It's all about cash flow. I've done it a few different times, and I'm just a buy and hold guy. I'm a property manager, and I'm accumulating property for the long term.
Yeah, you touched on something a little bit ago that I thought is important, because we have a wide range of listeners, but our main demographic, when we check our analytics, is between a 24 and 35-year-old male. So you are a young guy starting out the business. You mentioned you had no problem going into debt. This is important to point out, that we're talking about good debt versus bad debt. We don't mean going and buying on credit cards, going buying cars and everything. But if you understand how to understand how to work with leverage, debt leverage, and do it correctly, debt's going to make you wealthy. And that's were we talking about this before you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, or how did you come across understanding debt? Because this is important for people to understand, that our society's got this stigma around debt, but debt is what can make you wealthy if you have no money, if you do it correctly.
Yep. There's so much information. All the information out there is free, right?
Right.
There's selling information is, an interesting, idea and great, but there's a lot of information that's free. When I was coming up, I really wanted to I wanted to see that it really worked. I didn't want to just get a sales pitch. So the people that were important to me, well, Rich Dad Poor Dad was obviously significant to many people. However, in addition to that, I saw people in my area that were able to accumulate property and leave for a few months, and that really appealed to me. And subsequently, through Jack Miller, some people might know, or the FFN network, all those materials are there. I met these people, and they show, they're just humble people who share their flaws and what their successes are and what's worked for them. So if you can find and latch yourself onto somebody of that stature that's just willing to spend some time with you and show you how they live, I think the people you gravitate toward are what's really within you and who you might want to become.
Right. So you brought up something else that's important to understand. You're a young guy, you got into business, you're doing some huge rehabs, multiple $100,000 rehabs. That's risky, right? But at that age in your life, and a lot of y'all are at age where y'all can be doing this, you need to take these necessary risks if you want to get ahead in life. If you want to retire yourself early, you can't play it safe. What's the worst thing that happens? If you do it in an appropriate manner, you can't get yourself in too much trouble, but you're never going to hit those big long-term goals unless you get pretty aggressive with your risk taking and your goal setting early on in your career, right?
You tell people that it's not easy.
Well, it depends. Like, everything's easy. Here's how you be successful, guys. Everybody asks me all the time, how do you become successful? You wake up, you work all day long every day. You wake up the next day, you work all day long that day. You wake up the next day, you do it every single day until you hit your goals. That's how you become successful. It's that easy. And yeah, you're going to have a long up and down. You're going to have to practice what we call delayed gratification, or being aggressively patient, meaning you work hard every day, aggressively going for your goals, but you're patient to let time kind of compound them out. But I think a lot of people they come from this mindset of entitlement, and that there's some easy button that they can just not work on the weekends. They can watch TV all week and expect to have big time results. They're not going to build something like you've done without working hard.
Yep. So,
yeah, it's important to understand that. I just think people don't understand the life of an entrepreneur, but they all want to be an entrepreneur. It's a lot of work. And if you don't have the ability to take initiative on your own without someone telling you what to do every day, it's going to be very tough for you. But that's where the process of self-development comes down. So you travel around a lot. You go to a lot of events. Jack Miller, you said, used to go to the FFN group, Financial Friends with Walter Wolford and Quincy Long. Is there any good event or any good books that you think would be good for them to go to? Anybody listen to this right now?
I think they're all good. Anything. Jimmy Napier, Invest in Debt. A guy that attends the Gary Johnston events with Gary is Clyde Wilson. He's been nice enough to let me call him once in a while, and he gave me a copy of Jimmy's little red book, Invest in Debt. And that really is to talk about how to discount mortgages, how to work a little calculator that talks about the number of payments, the interest rate, the present value, the payments, and the future value. If you can just start messing around with that and attend these events within the FFN are not expensive. You go to Atlanta or you go to Vegas, any of those are great. But I think just having an idea in mind of why you want to do it and who you want to become would be the overarching thing. You might think, well, I want to generate a high volume of income. You might gravitate toward a flipper. If you're like me, you might say, well, I don't want to trade time for money. And then that would be a residual income type of plan that you would impart on.
Right. So it's important to understand that if you're going to get in the business and you're not financeable, you're going to have to learn how to make owner financing offers. But if you don't understand amortization and interest rates, this is going to be very tough for you. And I know this is one of the most intimidating topics for a new investor is when they start looking into all these interest rates and all these amortization tables. It can kind of, put their heart in a place where it's not so excited, right? So you didn't have any experience coming in. You weren't educated probably on this either, right? You had to teach yourself this, which everybody has to do the same.
Yep. And probably it's only about 2012 that I ever see that in a number of payments interest rate. Did I see that thing at a Gary Johnston event in 2012? So it's recent to me. And whenever we would write real estate contracts in the late 90s, they would have the tables in a little book given by the title company. So if you wanted to know how much an $10,000 8% loan for 15 years, you would just flip to that page and see what the payment was there. There wasn't a lot of calculation. Right. There's a lot of ways to get to your goal, but I think that what you're trying to figure out is the ability to analyze an investment. So I've got if you borrow somebody else's money, if you're in it for zero and then you're making $1 a month, your return is infinite.
Right.
So after that, you have to say, well, I'm going to invest $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000. I'm going to receive this over time. So it just becomes part of the language that you start learning as an investor and an entrepreneur. It's really like learning any skill. You don't learn it overnight, and you keep adding to it as you start refining your process.
Right. So it's very important to understand, guys, the sooner you can learn about interest rates, the better, because this just gives you another tool in the bag when you go make offers to motivate sellers. Because if you're a one-trick pony, like most people are, where they can only make a lowball cash offer, you're going to be missing a lot of deals. I have a video out there somewhere where we talk about, what is it? You can buy a house for $100K, sell it for $100K, and profit well over $100K. Meaning you can buy the house for $100K with 0% interest or a low interest rate and turn around and wrap it and sell it on payments for $100K with, say, 10.25% down. When you look at how much you're going to make, even though you bought it at the same price and sold it at the same price, because the interest rate, you're going to make a bunch of money, right? So it's just important to understand how powerful that is. So what's your main focus right now? What are you up to right now?
Well, I kind of feel, I might be wrong, but I kind of feel that New Orleans is at the top of the market, as many places are. Many places have experienced a lot of what do you call it, growth or value appreciation, that you kind of want to go where people aren't. People that are making money in New Orleans are building houses,
Right.
and you can make money in New Orleans if you're able to structure an owner finance deal. But I'm kind of looking at something that's scalable. So you might know that I'm in Jackson, Mississippi a little bit, and an affordable housing idea that somebody can live for $150, $200 less than they could pay in rent. Meanwhile, you're investing in these properties for the long-term return over the period of a loan, maybe a 10 or 12 or 15-year loan. So that releases you theoretically from maintenance and turnover. So that seems to be a scalable. Property management is scalable, but I think it's an active participation job whenever you manage properties. At some point, you start needing to, repairs and changeover starts requiring more time. Theoretically, if you can finance some and turn it into a note, it's going to go away. You're not going to end up with the equity in the property, but at least you've bought yourself some time and some income.
Right. So are you buying those houses in Jackson or these other markets inside land trusts or IRAs, or are you just, how are you holding title to them?
Well, yeah, I have a couple rentals, and then I have one going on that I will be taking title or a percentage of a trust in an IRA, a Roth IRA. So yeah, it's been a couple of years, and honestly, it's the rent's fine. It beats many places in the country, and it's really great. You just have to, if you're not in Jackson, then you need a property manager. You need to figure out how to manage from afar. But I'm thinking notes is more scalable, and I'm hoping to. I brought it up to say that I've kind of been in this period after our children. We've been raising our kids for almost 5 years, so I haven't had the 60 and 80 hours a week to devote to this. So it's been kind of a different period, a different transition phase when I don't have the same time. And my results, I thought I wanted to be like a flipper or get a lot of leads. It just hasn't been wildly successful, I suspect, because of the time involved. And I think that going into the Jackson market, I think there's more opportunity to you control whether you buy a house or not. You don't control whether or not your marketing reaches the person, and your ability to run out and negotiate the right property and sell it. There's only so much you can control, but as in Jackson, I believe you can scale that opportunity.
Right. So guys, Jackson, are you going down to Walter's Mississippi Affordable Housing Summit here on, what is it, March 21st through 23rd?
Yeah, I think I'll be there.
I think those are right, guys. Go back and watch that. We put a podcast out just a couple of days ago with Walter talking about that event. So I'll be down there. A lot of us will be down there. A lot of great speakers. Make sure to go check it out. And if you want to see us down there, we'll be there. What about on the realtor side? You doing anything with that right now?
Well, you whipped me into a frenzy with the EXP model, and all the training on that has gotten me excited about real estate again. I've taken this hiatus to make this portfolio, and honestly, aside from the occasional client dragging me out of retirement to sell my house, I've been quite dormant. However, I feel like being a realtor and an investor aren't mutually exclusive. I think that just transparency on yourself, if you're out there working as a cash buyer, I think you just have to disclose and say, I'm in it to make a buck.
Right.
And the market, the training there's more training with the EXP than you want. And honestly, you can get some marketing ideas as well as the powerful downline.
Right. So we got Marcus down there in New Orleans, guys, really out through Louisiana. So if you're looking into working with us on EXP, you need to reach out to him. He's running our team down there. Obviously, he's been in the business for 20 years, guys. He's someone you want to get to know. We'll talk more about that on future episodes. But so what? Let's see. The cash flow market's great right now. You have a bunch of these houses. You said you're coming to the top of the market. You're going to keep them, ride them out, or are you planning to sell off? I know some people are selling them off. Some people are kind of keeping them. Like, what's your mindset on that right now? If the market is, because do you still have a lot of debt on them, or do you have some of them free and clear, or kind of what's your thought process kind of looking at these next couple of years with your portfolio?
Yeah, I got equity and I've got debt and I've got free and clear. So you do the mental gymnastics and think of the what ifs in the world, and then you just say, well, if you sell for 100,000 profit, you go pay the taxes, the capital gains, long-term capital gains, or the recapitulation, or whatever the tax words are, and you take your money and put it in your hand, and then what do? You
Right.
can, if somebody made me do it, I would certainly go out and try to seek highly leveraged positions with a little bit of cash. And let me just talk about that a little bit. Somebody with a property that they don't need all the cash out of or don't have to have it. What I've done a few times is to give them cash enough to make their move. And that in some cases it was 100,000, in some cases it was 10,000. But that cash is significant enough for them to be able to finance you another larger amount that creates an income stream. Or in one case, it was underlying financing. Then I gave them a down payment as well. They had an additional part that they financed me. So they financed their equity. I think that is a good play to play in an area that has high values. If the rental market supports it, you certainly don't want to take a loss unless it's okay to take a loss for a small amount of time, but I don't think you can view that as unless you're really paying down the equity and you have positive income from somewhere else. I might have got off the track a little bit, but I just want to throw that in there because that might be a way to play in the higher valued markets. If somebody can either get a loan for their next move or doesn't need all the capital right now and they'd rather turn it to an income stream.
Right, because those of you who have high price point markets, you're a lot more vulnerable if the market turns around. So let's look back. So Marcus has been in business for a very long time. You lived through the crash. How did you see that affect your market? What was the percentage rate? Because my market's relatively stable. There is some areas that only dropped 5-8% because we just have a strong market here, and really the biggest areas of DFW didn't get hit too hard. Most areas less than 25%, but some parts of the country got blasted, like 75% drops. What did y'all see there? Because if you got a free and clear house worth $250,000, it's going to lose 75% of its value. May sell it off and hoard that cash and buy back at the bottom.
Yeah, 08, I was listening to it on the news with a hammer in my hand. New Orleans had so much, I'll call it artificial money, government funds that was supplying the housing need, as well as just insurance money that was influx for rebuilding. That once again, New Orleans bucked the trend, which it does. It goes down when others don't, and doesn't go down when others do. So, other than saying I'm missing a huge opportunity somewhere else, greener pastures, I was stuck here with a hammer in my hand.
Right.
So, just thankfully didn't have to. I took my lumps during Katrina and not during the economic downturn, because we were somewhat insulated from it because of the artificial money.
Right. So we're going to start asking more people on the podcast, what advice they would have given their younger self, and also going over maybe a bad deal that they did. Because, everybody's talking about the big checks, the big money, but what really helps people is to understand what pitfalls to avoid. So let's go and talk about a deal that you can think of that you probably would have done differently, or maybe some advice you would have given your younger self if you could go back, or if there's something you could have done differently, if you could transport yourself back in time.
Well, it seems like I always have some kind of pang of remorse when I sell something. So I know that's not the line for flippers, but you get money, or you get, unfortunately, no money, and then you do all that work and get a little bit and pay a lot of it to the government. It's just doesn't feel good to me. So just try to keep everything if you can. And right. I got that from Clyde. He just said, try to hold on to everything you can. And I'm of the same mind.
I mean, that's one of the biggest commonalities I see with most all investors. As you guys come across people who have been in business for a long time, I say it myself, because here's what happens. You get a house, you got a spread in it. You intend to keep it when you buy it. Your goals, I do this all the time where we'll fix them up and I plan to finance out, but then you can get at the back end of that process and someone's offering you to buy the house and you're going to make a 40, 50K check. And do you have the discipline? Do you have the business maturity to say, no, I'm going to step over that 50K check and just finance out and make $400 or $500 a month? And that's very, very difficult to do for people. But what happens 3, 4, 5 years later down the road is you look back at all those houses you sold, and now they've gone from 150 to 220, and it just is like, it's just like a burning iron in your side, because you're like, man, if I just had a little bit more discipline. So it's hard to do, guys, but if you can do it, like you said, keep everything. You're gonna do a lot better in the long run.
And the equity is arbitrary. It's one thing one day, and the next day it's something else. So we're just in a period that has blinded a lot of people to think it's going to go up, up, and up. That's great if it does. Maybe we're in a new age where the population is supporting it, and the low interest rates are supporting it, and all the education is supporting. Hopefully, a gradual increase. But stuff has happened because of inflation and crisis that you can never see around the corner. Right. But having a collateralized asset, I know a lot of people play the stock market, but it's not collateralized. And Jimmy Napier's sarcastic remark, he said, well, if you have stock, and it goes down in value, at least you still got the paper that it's written on. So having a collateralized asset really makes a lot of sense. And if you have equity, I think there's a tendency to get nervous about the value of it. Even with houses, you can do that. But just stay in the course, being in a stock or a house for the long term. If you can manage your financial affairs to just not have those huge cash needs. Living in a multifamily house has been a key to our success. We certainly like people helping pay for it.
Right. Let's talk about that a little bit, because I have a video on my YouTube channel talking specifically about what y'all are doing there. But before we do, it's important to understand, guys, even though you need to be keeping everything, or that's what a lot of us believe, you need to have cash and capital to run your business. Don't put yourself in a position where you're stressing out day to day. Go ahead and sell a few of them, build up a little bit of cash reserve, and then start keeping them. Because if you're trying to run, a car or a business on low fuel or low cash reserves, it can be really stressful for you. But let's talk about what you're doing there with your house. I think you did an amazing job rehabbing it. It's a unique property, and it's a duplex, right?
It's got 3 long-term tenant units. It's got a 3-bedroom, a 4-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, and then a bonus. And
so you finance that. Is that one of the ones you got owner financed, or you have a bank loan on it?
Bank loan. Yeah, it transitioned. We ran out of money. We got a construction loan. It's just too big and took too much money. So here's the not Hollywood story, is that we ran out of money at least once and had to extend the time period that the renovation took. But we were, there's no other option than to finish it. So we managed to, get a unit done and then go forward with the next phase. So it's a multi-phase deal, but yeah, it's 3 units, about 6,000 square feet, and it's in a central part of the city.
So let's talk about how that works, because what would be your total monthly liability for the property, your PITI, and then what is the cash flow from the occupants cover? Does it cover your entire mortgage?
Yeah, I think before the Airbnb component that it's we live for about $500 a month, more than that. We have to pay in about $500 after all the PITI is done.
Right. So you're Airbnb-ing a lot down there, or mostly of most of your rentals are long-term rentals, right? Are you transitioning more towards Airbnb?
That'd be great, but the city really put the kibosh on it with a short-term rental license. The rules right now are that the structure can't have more than 2 units, and you have to declare your homestead exemption on that. You have to declare your residency on that before you can qualify for at least a short-term business license. Other than that, I think you can go through some of the other channels and rent for a total of 90 days out of the year. So there's a coalition, probably propped up by the hotel industry, that said that Airbnb is destroying the neighborhoods and it's ruining the fabric. And the result of that in the French Quarter, that's many people know about our area in the French Quarter. People are buying 1-bedroom condos for $320, and then once that legislation came down in our city, they're lucky to get out of them for like $280. So really, in that microenvironment, caused a little crisis,
right? Or
at least loss of value.
I mean, I just don't see how they're going to be able to have any longevity in this fight against Airbnb. It's not going anywhere. It's not just a fad, guys. This is the future. I mean, we're seeing disruptive technology disruptive changes in every industry, but there's just no way. I mean, yeah, like you said, they can lobby and do everything they can to stop it. And I don't blame them, because all these the hotel industry, the old way of doing it is just threatened. Really, that's what it is. And they can spend as much as they want. I just don't see how they can stop it, right? I don't even know how they could. I guess for zoning issues, but
yeah, there's also wrinkles in this story that's going to happen that we don't know about. What happens when the market is saturated?
Right.
What happens when the hotel industry takes a proactive stance against it and says we're going to take a loss for 10 years until something happens? I think it's not written yet. That book's not written yet.
Right. I mean, I was just up with Jim Ingersoll up in Richmond, Virginia, guys. If you don't know who he is, go follow his YouTube channel. He's a mentor of mine. And we were eating breakfast, and we drove by, I think it was one of those Homewood Suites or extended stay, and it was like $319 for the week, which would make it a little, what would that be, like $1,260 or something a month. So you think about it, rent rates in that area are probably pretty close to that, maybe even higher. And someone could go and stay there, pretty much live there, and they could have someone coming in, cleaning their sheets and their towels for them, and have all the amenities of a hotel, right? Or of a you got like the weight room, breakfast in the morning. I mean, think about it. That's a real threat that no one's bringing up to people who are doing regular rentals, especially Airbnb now. If these extended stays are going to drop the prices that much, I don't even know. What do you think? Is that going to affect anything? In your opinion?
Well, the Airbnb offers an experience that the hotel can't really give. So some people think it's icky. Some people love it. I think it's great to see how the culture of another person's house or another person's city. I like that part of it. So I think if they generate enough capital and have enough reserves to market themselves correctly, I think they're going to be fine. Well,
it helps take away that homesick feeling. You don't feel like you're so much trapped in a weird, dirty hotel anymore. You feel like you're living, or you're staying at a friend's house, or it gives that at-home feel. Plus, it gives people the ability to hang out. A lot of these Airbnbs are now providing grills and patios and places for people to, because they understand people want that experience. So I think it's a great opportunity. We're actually looking to buy some down here for ourselves around Dallas Cowboys Stadium. You got Cowboys Stadium, Rangers, Six Flags, Wet and Wild, all in one area, and I think that's a great area to put them. Is there?
And if there's an area that's in proximity, like not too far for something, and it has a stigma of being of less status, just look at the proximity and just understand what would happen if you were to transform an area.
Right.
So go into an area where you might get the jump on the value and still really identities of a neighborhood change, and they can do it relatively quickly too, just depending on the nucleus of renovation and the collective thought changing about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really cool, y'all's area down there. I wish they would do something different that would allow y'all to do that more often, because everything's accessible by bike, right? We were riding bikes around down at Mardi Gras, and it just seems like the perfect area to let them do that. And that's pretty ridiculous. I don't know. It's interesting to see what's going to happen over the next few years.
Everybody has an area in their market that is in proximity to a commercial corridor, where unfortunately, it might be a large-scale commercial corridor, but it might be not really that case. I saw someplace in Jackson, maybe the older cities of the nation. They just got an area with neat little houses that are they have maybe a 24/7 feel to it, maybe some pedestrian traffic and some eats and drinks. So I think I think the trends are going to play out that's popular to young people. They're sacrificing, maybe chasing the dollar for more of an experience.
Right. No, I agree. I agree with you on that. And guys, also what we just talked about there a little bit, we had a podcast out there with Al Williamson. He's a Airbnb specialist, Airbnb coach. And in these areas where everything's easily reached in a close range, close proximity, put bikes at your Airbnbs and advertise this to kind of put yourself above your competition. Because if you say, hey, look, we're going to let you use these bikes, as compared to them thinking they're going to have to pay for Uber all the time, it's an incentive and could help you get a higher nightly rent for your property. So we go over. Do we go over everything you want to talk about? Is there anything specifically while you're in front of our audience that you think is important for them to know, or you got any wisdom about what you think is coming with the future of the real estate market?
Well, I think it's a person-to-person business, and real estate is extremely local. So what works in my market is not going to work in your market. I will say that just uh, getting in front of people would be a key to success, and giving them opportunity to like you. There are negotiations that somebody might not do on paper. They weren't able to talk to you and feel what it's like to be around you and trust you. So just giving people an opportunity, kind of know what you want. And for me, that's owner financing and rental income and passive income, and just ease your way into talking about it and asking for it when you're in front of somebody. And phone is not bad too. Phone is good too. So be on the phone or whatever technology is available to you, or in person. Clyde Wilson, I'll steal this from him. He said, go, if you feel like there's something to be had with a relationship or a deal, run out and buy them lunch before too much time passes. So it's just a method of, getting what you want.
Right. This is a networking relationship business, guys. You got to get out there and build those relationships. Now, if they want to work with you, Marcus, and they say they come across a deal in New Orleans or in Louisiana, or they need you to list a property for you or for them, or they want to come talk to you about joining your EXP team, how do they reach you? Do you have a website? You want to give out your phone number, email, whatever you want to give out?
504-220-9154 is my phone number. And Marcus.Tuttle1, numeric 1 at Gmail is how you reach me by email. And so that's probably the safest way. I'm new on the social media, so I don't want to advertise that just yet.
Well,
Still thinking about if it's going to be a technology that sticks around.
We got Marcus interested. He's been doing the Facebook Lives, guys. So go check him out on Facebook and see what he's doing, because it's definitely not going anywhere. It's increasing. Social media is, if y'all aren't using social media to build your business, you're missing a huge opportunity here, because you cannot generate a cheaper lead than you can using organic social media. I mean, you can go pay for pay-per-click ads, but if you can't build an audience that's a recurring audience, then you're not going to be able to get that price per lead down. And that's very important to understand, the ability to buy an audience versus build an audience. So y'all can go and pay for pay-per-click ads all day and get in front of that audience instantly, but after they click it, in order to get another view or another impression, you're going to have to pay for it again. Whereas if you build an audience, now you have them there all the time, right? So it takes a little bit longer, takes a little bit more effort on the front side, but you're going to have a lot longer longevity in the business, producing those lower cost leads, right?
I would like to say that, I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast. You have been quite inspirational with how focused you are in your business and delivering content and adding to the value that you impart.
Brown knows me a little bit on my show. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate your friendship, and I like working with you. And yeah, guys, reach out to Marcus if you're thinking about doing anything down in New Orleans or really in Louisiana for that matter,
or elsewhere with EXP. If you think that I might be able to offer you something in your market, that's the beauty of EXP. That if you've had any thoughts of getting your license, which is a value, just understanding contracts and negotiation as well with EXP, the training is something I've never seen. I've been a realtor for a long time. It's just amazing, anything short of amazing. But if you feel like I might be a good sponsor for you to share my story, network, or guide you along your path to passive income and being able to have all of your time and not trade time for money.
Right. So, let's touch on that real quick, because that's important you brought that up, that it's not just the power of EXP Realty, guys, and you're going to hear us talk about this more and more going forward, because if you come in with Marcus's team, you'll be working with me directly as well. So you're going to be getting the help of both of us. But you can leverage an audience or a market all the way across the country, because what they've allowed is, because they've changed the broker-agent relationship to a broker-sponsor-agent relationship, is we can now build in any market that we have MLS access to, which right now is in 47 to 50 states and probably going to be in all 50 states by the end of this year, and we're already open in Canada. So for $50 a month, you can build a realtor team from day one after getting your license. You don't have to wait to become a broker. You can actually build across the country. This has never happened before. We're the first 100% owned, agent-owned brokerage, first cloud-based brokerage. It's pretty amazing, guys. So if you want to look into that a little bit more, or talk to Marcus and I, give us a call. Marcus, I know you got to get back to what you're doing. I appreciate your time today. Grateful to get you on here. And guys, we will see you on the next episode. Have a good day.
Thanks, Connor.
Thanks, Marcus.